He humiliated his pregnant ex at his wedding. Seconds later, she did what no one expected. The whispers in the hall stopped the moment she walked in. Her belly showed clearly through a simple dark blue dress that she had stitched herself because she didn't want attention. She hadn't come for drama, only to return a ring that belonged to his grandmother. But fate had something else waiting for her that night. Something far bigger and far more painful than she imagined. If you believe kindness deserves another chance, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support makes these stories continue reaching hearts. When Claire stepped into the Grand White Hall in Miami, Florida, every chandelier glistened over her face like accusing eyes. She tried not to look at anyone. She kept her hands low on her stomach, gently supporting the child growing inside her. The father of that child stood on the wedding stage, Alex Townsend, looking magnificent in black tuxedo with a confident smile that had once made her feel safe. Now that same smile belonged to someone else. His bride, Madison, stood beside him in a lace gown, delicate and elegant, the kind of woman Claire once believed she was becoming. Claire simply stepped forward, wishing to give him the ring, say a quiet congratulations, and leave. She never expected hundreds of eyes to judge her, nor did she expect the groom, the man who once promised her forever, to tear her dignity apart in seconds. Alex didn't want her there. Everyone could see his impatience. His jaw tightened when a guest whispered her name. He remembered the breakup, but not the reasons behind it. He chose not to remember the long nights she had prayed for his recovery when he lost his father, the months she held the family together, the sacrifices she made when he lost his job, and she worked extra bakery shifts just so he wouldn't feel like a failure. Those memories lived only in her heart now. Claire felt her knees shaking. A few women began whispering. Someone laughed. And then Alex stepped down from the altar, walked toward her, and did the unthinkable. He grabbed the loose side knot of her dress and pulled, causing the stitched fabric to rip open near her shoulder, making everyone gasp. Claire froze. Madison laughed. People clapped, thinking it was some sort of funny scene. But Claire wasn't laughing. Alex humiliated her not just as an ex, but as a woman carrying his child. For the first time, she couldn't hide her tears. With trembling hands, she held her belly. She didn't beg. She didn't shout. She simply handed him the small box with the ring and said nothing. He smirked and turned away. She walked back slowly, one step at a time, not knowing that someone had been watching, someone no one expected. On the far side of the hall, near the catering area, stood Marcus Bennett, the owner of the venue, a self-made man, quietly attending to arrangements. He had seen everything, every tear, every insult. Before he became a prosperous entrepreneur, Marcus had been abandoned by people he trusted. He knew what humiliation felt like, and seeing Claire reminded him of his mother, who once walked away from an abusive husband with her baby in her arms. That baby had grown into Marcus, but Claire did not know who he was. She simply walked outside, not wanting to disturb anyone. The warm Florida air hit her as she stepped into the garden behind the hall. She sat on a bench, her hands shaking. She thought of leaving the town forever. She thought of never telling her child who the father was. She wondered if the baby deserved a father like that. Inside, the wedding music played again. She was not missed. What Claire didn't know was that Marcus was walking toward her. He didn't sit beside her. He simply stood nearby, giving her space, and offered his jacket because her dress had torn. She accepted silently, not knowing why a stranger was being kind when the man she loved wasn't. Marcus asked if she needed help, but Claire only shook her head. She wasn't ready to speak. Later, she quietly stood up and left. That night should have ended as another painful memory, but destiny works differently. Hours later, while guests were leaving, Madison fainted near the buffet table. Someone shouted her name and panic spread. She wasn't breathing properly. Someone called an ambulance. Everyone panicked except Claire, who was about to step into her car. She turned back when she heard people screaming. She walked right into the hall again, ignoring the stares, ignoring Alex's shock. Her training in nursing, which she stopped midway due to pregnancy complications, suddenly mattered again. She tilted Madison's chin, cleared her airway, pressed into her sternum with soft force, and breathed into her mouth to restore oxygen flow. Everyone watched, including the man who tore her dress hours ago. Within seconds, Madison gasped and regained consciousness. It was Claire who saved her life. Later, at the hospital, the doctor said Madison had a sudden drop in blood pressure and could have died if oxygen was delayed even 2 minutes. Claire didn't stay. She didn't ask for gratitude. She left before Madison could open her eyes. Alex stood at a distance, stunned by the woman he once threw away so cheaply. Days later, Claire returned to her work in a nearby bakery. She lived in a small rented apartment, preparing for the baby alone. One afternoon, Marcus came there. She recognized him instantly. He explained that after seeing what she had done, what she had tolerated, and how she still saved someone who mocked her, he had contacted a private women's health foundation he partnered with. He informed her she had been approved for the safest maternity care, nursery support, and a place to stay until the baby arrived. Claire stood speechless. He wasn't doing charity. He was offering respect. Her baby boy was born in late spring. She named him Oliver. She held him tightly, crying tears of freedom, not heartbreak. Marcus would occasionally check on her, but he never overstepped. He respected her choices. Weeks later, the bakery offered her full-time employment with insurance coverage. She was finally able to breathe. Months passed. One day, Alex showed up at her apartment, wanting to see the child. He apologized, admitted guilt, begged to be part of the boy's life. Claire listened quietly, but she remembered everything. Every humiliation, every tear, every moment she stood alone while he celebrated with others. She told him he could be part of Oliver's life legally, but emotionally she would decide based on what her son deserved, not what Alex regretted. And then she closed the door. Weeks later, she moved into a larger apartment, courtesy of her promotion, decorated with pastel colors, baby books, and soft sunlight through the windows. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had walked alone, survived alone, and risen alone. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps more emotional stories reach people who need hope. Before we end, please comment what moment in the story moved you the most. Claire never sought revenge. Instead, she showed the world that dignity does not scream. It stands silently and shines when no one is watching. What she did after being humiliated wasn't to embarrass anyone. It was to remain human, kind, and strong. And that strength changed her life forever.